Oh, hello everyone, it's Susie again from Esoteric Trading Solutions. I hope you're all well. Living your life to the fullest. Life is very, very short, so always do what you want to do. Look, what I thought I'd do, there are a lot of coins out there and a lot of tokens, so I thought I'd start a series called In Pursuit of the Best Coins for a 2-year view. And I just want to go through most of the coins because I still think Ripple is one of the best coins out there, but I thought I would go through and have a look at a lot of different coins. There are a lot, and basically look at their advantages and their disadvantages. So the first 4 that I'm going to look at today are Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, and Litecoin. So in terms of coin capital markets, there's 903 coins out there. Capitalization of about 193 bill or 200 bill, something like that. And there's also 375 tokens, and most of those tokens are Ethereum technology, which I absolutely hate. So what I want to do is look at this series, analyze the coins in terms of technology, business case, revenue earning capacity, the IT developers, the game, whether they're a game changer, their competition, then categorize those coins into whether they're privacy, whether they're a game coin, financial markets, and also assess the coins or tokens in terms of their relative value to their peers and whether they're fairly priced, expensive, or cheap. So it is a lot of work. My motivation basically is I really like Ripple, but again, a lot of people out there seem to be very anti-Ripple, which really surprises me. So what I thought I'd do in this series is basically pursue alternative coins as well, and look at a lot of the different technologies as well. So again, market capitalization, when I did the 193 was yesterday, but today it's 205 billion from the 14th of November. So let's quickly go through this. I don't want to make it too long because obviously people can only look at things for so long. So basically looking at Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash very quickly, Bitcoin has a 1 MB maximum, Bitcoin Cash has an A and B. On Bitcoin, it's SegWit without the signatures. So Bitcoin Bitcoin Cash has the signatures. Bitcoin has a singular centralized development team, which is not great. Bitcoin has multiple development teams, which is much better. Bitcoin has a problem, obviously, with off-chain payments. Bitcoin Cash can do off-chain payments. Now, I know this is fairly small, but the advantage of Bitcoin is they're a first mover pretty much. People know the coin. It's very well known, even though less than 1% of the population know about cryptocurrencies. Most people do know about Bitcoin. So essentially, Bitcoin will be more well known than anything else. And most people, the retail market, once they get to know more about cryptocurrencies, will go into Bitcoin. There's no doubt about that. There is high demand for Bitcoin in Japan, South Korea, but also countries like Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Venezuela, where there's been complete currency collapse. There's over 100 stores globally for Bitcoin. Pretty much lawmakers don't know how to use what to do with this particular, current cryptocurrency. They don't know whether it's a coin or crypto, or they don't know whether it's a commodity or currency or a security. So they still don't know what to do with this. Very much it's also been put on the futures exchange, CME, and also on the Argentine futures exchange, which is all very bullish for Bitcoin. Plus in 2018 there's going to be a law change, looks like in the US, where they'll treat this as a currency, Bitcoin, rather than as a property, where there'll be a tax exemption for spending money under $600. And you won't get taxed. Currently, the way it is, if you go and buy coffee and Bitcoin goes up, technically speaking, they're treated as property and you can be taxed at 28%, which is all pretty silly. Some of the investment banks are open to Bitcoin, like Goldman Sachs CEO, for example. The technology, as I said, is only 1B. It's a bit of a restriction. It is very tampered by that. Also, transactions can be very, very slow, but the technology is very difficult to hack and get into, but it's not to say that it hasn't been hacked. They do use a proof of work, validating the transactions and proving correct as they come through, and that's a fairly good system, but in saying that, it is fairly slow. Just want to go through, there is 21 million coins, and there's a circulating supply of 16.67. Don't forget that Bitcoin can go to 8 digits on its currency, on the coin itself. So technically speaking, if you divide 21 million by 8 digits, you actually have a lot more coins than just 21 million. So basically it's 100 billion if you divide that. So even though they have 21 million coins, the fact of the matter is you can go to 8 digits on those coins. So just want you to be aware of that. It's not actually 1 cent. Now, the disadvantages of Bitcoin, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because I don't want to tie you up too much. The transactions are very slow. Waiting time is supposed to be 10 minutes and there's supposed to be 7 transactions. But as we know, with a 1 meg for capacity, the system can be very, very slow, and it can be from 10 to 3 hours in terms of transaction process. Also, the cost of transactions are going up. They can't seem to do very quickly cross-currency transactions. I don't think they can do them at all. The hash rates are not consistent. The processing power by the miners is not consistent because the miners go from one crypto to another. It is controlled by 4 main miners in China. You can see who they are. And basically this makes this cryptocurrency very centralized. Even though it's decentralized in technology, it is centralized because it's controlled by the 4 main Chinese miners who can manipulate it quite a bit, and we have seen that of recent times. Bitcoin Cash being extremely manipulated. Bitcoin fees are rising quite dramatically. The last I saw was $4.23, and this is because the transactions are queuing up on the blockchain, and basically there's too many transactions for the storage capacity of the blockchain, and they're queuing up, and basically a miner is only selecting the highest transaction and basically putting that on the block and then processing it through the blockchain. So that is a real problem in itself. Bitcoin has also had very bad publicity. Read this SegWit 2 times. There is a split between developers on each side and obviously different communities, whether it be in Hong Kong or the like. Some people think it was very badly handled, and it's not a very good story. Also, there's one crowd that want to do the fork, BitPo or whatever it's called, very unknown exchange, wanted to do the fork and others didn't. And also it's very confusing because you have the BT1 and BT2 still trading, and everyone's saying what is the real Bitcoin, essentially. So the thing is with the transactions, they're very slow because of the system of Bitcoin with the nodes. They have to validate transactions, and the miners have to go in there and validate the system and make sure that the distributed ledger balances are balanced. But also it is slow, and they're increasing the cost of transactions to a block, and it is taking some time to get your transaction completed. So in the real world, if you're buying coffee, you wouldn't want to wait for 3 hours to make payment, which is pretty bad. So that is a real issue in itself, and a very, very negative of Bitcoin particularly. The system has slowed down quite a bit, and the prices are actually rising quite a bit because they're centralized by these 4 Chinese miners, which are huge. Now, Bitcoin Cash on the other side got launched in August 2007. It is backed by Chinese miners. There's been a lot of argy-bargy in the last 3 or 4 days where Bitcoin Cash has literally doubled. It went from 600 to 2,800, then came back to 1,200. It was quite volatile indeed, and the miners in China have said this will be the new Bitcoin, essentially. So there is, a bit of a scramble between who's the new Bitcoin and what's the old and all this sort of thing. Now, this, as you know, is an 8 MB. It's on the same processing capability, proof of work, SHA-256 basis. All transactions are validated on the blockchain. They do have a lot of a development team. On the other side, Bitcoin itself has a very limited developer team, which is quite a negative. Bitcoin Cash has done its first atomic swap, which basically means you can transfer cryptocurrencies without having a third party in the middle, which is really, really great. They have done it just with one cryptocurrency. I think it was SegWit. Oh, no, it was Decree. So, and they do have two-way replay protection. So there's no way that one Bitcoin can be paid on one blockchain and get paid on another, which is a good story in itself. Because they are bigger, 8 MB, they can grow in scale. Basically, some say this coin is closer to what Satoshi wanted: decentralization, peer-to-peer, medium exchange across the network, across the distributed ledger. They have more software as miners and developers. It is open source. Underlying computer code is a mathematical algorithm which the miners have to basically solve and it is quicker, and but it is based very similar onto the Bitcoin itself. 21 million, but when you divide it by 0.0001, whatever, you come up with 2.1 trillion. So it is, when you look at the digits of Bitcash, there is a lot on supply. So basically, it is faster and it does have much more capacity. So some people believe, particularly Chinese miners, that Bitcoin is dead and this should be the new Bitcoin because it can handle things 8 times quicker than the original Bitcoin. Again, disadvantages of Bitcoin Cash. Basically very volatile. We have seen the last couple of days the volatility in this thing was quite outstanding. Again, Japan and South Korea support it quite a lot, but there does seem to be some sort of manipulation. It doesn't seem to me that they can do cross-currency swaps very quickly, or transactions or cash flows, foreign currency cash flows very quickly. There is, as I said, a tussle between the miners. And basically, it's creating a lot of volatility in the hashing rates and basically what gets processed. They do say they can process it within 2 minutes, 30 seconds, but the chain still seems to be fairly slow. So that is a problem in itself, and there's manipulation. And so, and hash rates, which is the processing rate, are actually all over the place. I want to go to Ethereum. Ethereum basically, as you know, a lot of ICOs are based on Ethereum, and they use Ethereum's technology. I actually don't like Ethereum as a coin or even as a technology. Ethereum was set up to be basically technology first for basically a smart contract system for other ICOs in itself. It wasn't actually meant to be set up as a coin, but I honestly don't like the technology of Ethereum at all. Fees are cheap compared to Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. They do have smart contract technology, which is great, which means they can write conditions in the transaction so the money doesn't get released but for these conditions. Basically, they use an ERC20 standardization, which is what all the ICOs use. Most of their ICOs that use Ethereum are listed on Alpha Delta, so in some ways that makes it easier. But then you could say that that's a different disadvantage. If the Alpha Delta goes down on the exchange, then that's not a good story. So basically, these guys, their processing speeds are quicker. They generally transact, 3 to 4 transactions within 15 seconds because they have a different functionality or different technology to Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, not proof of work but balance of function. And essentially, they can basically process things faster. They have open source, public blockchain, smart contract scripting. Also, the developer Bookran said that he wanted something with scripting, and they can basically they have international network of public nodes, script language, proof of stake concept, and basically they can validate transactions quicker through the network. Essentially, also with Ethereum, they don't have a block size. They have a gas limit, and the gas limit is a cap on both processing and storage bandwidth because the cost of transaction function is fixed into the units of gas for each type of instruction. So basically, that controls whether there's a blockage in the system or whether there's not, and that is deemed to be better technology than, say, Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin itself. The disadvantage of Ethereum, there's quite a few, and as I said, I don't like Ethereum. Again, I see them as being slow processes in terms of transactions, same as Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin when you compare it to, say, Ripple, which can process, up to 2,000 transactions, cross-currency transactions within 3 to 4 seconds. Again, this thing wasn't meant to be set up as a medium of payment. It was set up to be smart contracts only. The biggest problem with Ethereum is they've had major hacks, and we saw that with a hard fork with Ethereum Classic. Also, just recently, they've had a major problem with multi-signature wallets, where a lot of ICOs particularly use these because they don't want one director or one person on the ICO running off with the money. So they have multi-signature wallets. They've had some developer or some code was actually deleted accidentally, and there's, from what I can see, 160 mil or 300 mil of Ethereum coins tied up in these wallets that no one can actually access, and that includes just the recent ICO Ambrosis, and I actually know people that can't get their money at the moment, which is seriously bad. They say that Ethereum does have a ceiling of about 1 to 2 million contracts, And if that capacity increases, the system is going to have a real trouble trying to process this stuff, which is not great. Now, again, Ethereum 2016 had a DAO attack as well, where coins were stolen, 55 million coins, and that's what caused the split, the hard fork for ETC. ETC, Ethereum Classic, is not used very much. And again, we've got the same story. Just like Bitcoin, they do a hard fork. No one uses the new contract, and technically the old contract shouldn't be used as much. So Ethereum's got real problems. It's got massive vulnerability in the smart contract code. It can be hacked very easily, and the problem with the smart contract code, there's no security. If there's any problems trying to fix it, it's time consuming and it's very, very expensive. Even, I can't remember the guy's name, but even the bloke that works for Ethereum that looks after the IT security said that he wakes up every day so worried about something else has happened with Ethereum in terms of its technology, that, something could have been hacked or something could have been deleted. But this thing where people can't get their money, 300 million, it's just a joke, and they still haven't fixed it. And basically ICOs, as I said, can't get their money, or even individual investors, which is really, really bad. So, these smart contracts basically put the system at risk, because things can be changed, and they can be hacked very, very easily, and that is not a great thing at all. And, millions can be stolen, and there is a bug in that, and effectively they don't even know how to fix it unless they do a hard fork, which is just a real pain, but it's a really bad negative for this cryptocurrency. And honestly, I don't know why this cryptocurrency is up at $318. I really don't. To me, it's got massive security risk on every level through smart contracts. And there's a real problem with them, and if something happens, they can't actually get fixed. So it's just beyond me. I mean, why would you want to, support this when things can go so easily wrong with the technology and they don't know how to fix it? Funds are still frozen, so that's pretty much it. I think there's a real problem with this thing. There's smart contracts basically speed down the technology. Again, they're still looking at hard forks, Metropolis and Byzantium, and again, all this stuff just adds to more and more confusion. Miners get paid from Ethereum and BTC, Bitcoin Cash, $7 to $8 a day. Now, there's an issue for this because Neuromation, the previous ICO that came out, which I spoke about, have gone to the miners and said, we want to pay you more for your processing capability. As you know, Neuromation is an intelligence, basically an intelligence thing where they need artificial intelligence, where they need lots and lots of processing capability, and miners are basically computer grunt, and they're basically now competing for miners to give them that processing capability. If Neuromation go to Amazon Cloud, they pay $4 an hour, which is a lot. So they're actually competing with Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Bitcoin for miners. Now, this is going to be very interesting going forward because, as you know, there's only 4 major miners for Bitcoin, and it's increasing the cost of Bitcoin's transaction costs. So, look, there's just, again, Ethereum does have capability issues, and if they do a lot of transactions, 1 to 2 million, it does cause queuing, and it does raise the costs of the transactions. So, again, I think there's a real problem with this technology. I don't like it. I never have, and I don't like Ethereum, full stop. Litecoin, again, going to that one, it's supposed to be the silver cousin of Bitcoin, open source, nearly identical to Bitcoin, but the payments speeds are faster than Bitcoin. 84 million coins are out there, has a different hashing algorithm. Again, they do have different miners. So people that mine Litecoin get paid differently to Bitcoin. It is on different software. And they have different miners that mine Litecoin. It's not as supported as Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum. And another thing, to mine, from what I've heard, it is fairly expensive to mine. And in terms of Litecoin, it is very hard to make money. Now, again, Litecoin is on the same principle as Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin. It's basically to 8 digits. So again, you could really divide 84 million by 8 digits to say this is the real amount of tokens that are out there in the world. It tries to process a block every 2.5 minutes, rather than Bitcoin supposedly, theoretically 10 minutes and Bitcoin Cash 2.5 theoretically. It's a script proof of work of algorithm, which apparently is quicker. It has different password capability. Again, it is different. Different miners will process this stuff. It hasn't really got a lot of traction really in the market. The only thing is it is being put on other Korean exchanges, so the volume recently has gone up, which is quite good. But, when you look at what they get paid, the miners, they generally get paid about $2 a day for Litecoin. So when you look at that, the miners don't get paid a lot for mining Litecoin when you compare it to, say, Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin or Ethereum, which is $7 to $8 a day. Again, going through very quickly, disadvantage of Litecoin. Basically, it's not really as well supported as other coins. Mining is, the mining revenue is very low, so you don't have as many miners. The script on Litecoin can be complicated, and if there's something wrong with that, can slow down things. Atomic swaps, it's going to take them a couple of years in terms of technology to be able to get atomic swaps up and running, whereas Bitcoin Cash can do it. Charlie, the guy that made Litecoin, basically said that it's going to take 2 to 3 years because they need to get stable wallets and more confidentially within the system. So look, I hope that all helps. I'm going to do a number of series like this. So out of those 4 coins, I probably have a preference for Bitcoin Cash out of those 4 coins, but I will be going through different series if I had to make an investment. So I hope you appreciate this. I really try to put in a lot of work and make it as fast as I can. Thank you very much for your time. Live well and be happy. Always, time is really short. And if you'd like to donate to me doing this work and to giving me a bit of more motivation, I'd really appreciate it very much. There's my Bitcoin address. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for listening.